Honorable M.A. Sumantiran, you have 9 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Presiding Member, for this opportunity to speak on a very important issue that is before the House today. The Prevention of Terrorism Act was brought in as a temporary provisions bill. In fact, the title to the act even has that, temporary provisions. That's a joke, because what was brought in for 6 months has gone on to live for 43 years. Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe was heard a little while ago to say that at the time it was brought, it was constitutional. No, it wasn't. The government of that day, the law that he says he helped draft, was unconstitutional, and the government knew it. That is why it was brought in as an urgent bill with the certificate that it will be passed by a two-thirds majority in Parliament. So the guarantee of a two-thirds majority was given to court even before the matter was examined by court as an urgent bill. So from its very inception, even those who gave birth to it knew that it was an unconstitutional law that they were enacting, and they continue to do that. And successive governments have allowed it to remain, not just merely allowed it to remain, but abused it. It wasn't that it was necessary at that time that it was initially used and later abused. It was abused from day one, because the very provisions in that act are for abuse, not for anything else, not to prevent terrorism. I am going to recount one or two, because the time is short, one or two personal experiences of mine, and I will, when I speak on that, I hope it qualifies my declaration under the etiquette of personal involvement in a matter that I speak. That will illustrate the absurdity of this law. I have previously mentioned a case which I will mention again. There was a couple, a husband and wife, who were prosecuted under Section 5 for failure to give information about a certain person, a person called Babu. Now they obtained confessions from this couple. They were people who threatened, gave confessions. They were not tortured, but threat of torture. Hooks and ropes were brought, and they signed the confession. But the person named Babu, who was also arrested, despite severe beatings, did not sign a confession. So I appeared for this couple. When the matter came up, Babu had been released because he did not sign a confession. And Babu came to watch the proceedings of these two persons who were charged for failure to give information about him. That's how absurd this law is. And what is more, I pleaded guilty on their behalf, because they pleaded with me to plead guilty, because 2 years had lapsed. They were in prison, 3 children, no one to look after them. And they were, because of the circumstances, they were given a suspended sentence, and they were able to come out. But after pleading guilty to an offense that they knew very well, we knew very well, the court knew very well, that they did not commit. Another case of a person whose supposed confession said he gave food parcels in Jaffna at a particular point to LTTEs. On that very day, he was having his appendix removed at Sri Javadanapura Hospital. That matter was brought. Honorable Tilak Maharapana was Attorney General. Mr. Mohan Piris was my senior in the case. And we told the prosecutor, don't embarrass yourself, withdraw the indictment. And the indictment was withdrawn. They write up whatever stories they want and get you to sign a confession. Honorable Leader of the Opposition mentioned the case of J.S. Tissanayagam. I was a counsel in that case. His supposed confession said in one place, he himself had written in his own handwriting because he was forced to do that. But even then, in one place it said, they offered me money. I said I did not want. In Tamil it said, Verndam endru sonnen. Verndam endru sonnen. It's written Verndam endru sonnen. It's written in black ink, but a correction was made in blue ink over that. The letters da and the Arabu da venna was changed to do. Verndum endru sonnen. I said I want. Now in that confession or supposed confession, there were 50 odd other places where he has made corrections in black ink. And he has initialed on the side. On this particular point, where a different ink was used, there was no initial on the side. The very document was not authentic. But it was on that document that he was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years rigorous imprisonment. That provision still remains. You're not touching that. The most talked about provision in the PTA, the confessions made to police officers being admissible as evidence against that person, and even co-accused for that matter, still remains. You haven't touched it. Detention, you say you are reducing. I mean, Professor Piris, Honorable Minister, you are embarrassing yourself when you stand up and say you are reducing 18 months to 12 months. I can't believe that you can do that. Does it make any difference on the ground? No, it doesn't. Tell me one person who was released because 18 months has lapsed. Tell me one person who is going to be released because 12 months is going to be lapsed now. Because you have Section 7. Before that 12 months, all you have to do is to produce a person before the magistrate. And the law says and will still say, magistrate shall remand the person until conclusion of the trial. And the trial is in the High Court, not in the
Honorable, you
magistrate's
have
court.
2 more minutes.
Sorry?
You have 2 more minutes.
So that doesn't change. You're saying you're providing provision for bail. Yes, that is for the first time. A provision for bail, a right is coming in. I acknowledge that. But anyway, you have been releasing people on bail, even without that. As you yourself said, courts have interpreted now, authoritatively, that the shall must be read as may. So what's this? This is a superfluous thing now. And when you bring it in, saying that the Court of Appeal can grant bail, you have a proviso that says subsequently the High Court can remand the person. Where in the world do you have a law where the higher court grants bail and subsequently the lower court can remand the person? Now, I must, since time is short, we have started a campaign and going countrywide where people from all walks of life, all ethnicities are calling for the total repeal of the PTA. Listen to the people of this country. We Tamils have said this for 30 or more number of years, 40 years maybe. Others have said it. The JVP suffered under this. When I started my practice, I appeared for many persons who were charged under the PTA in 89, 90, 91 and so on. Now you are victimizing the Muslim community under this law. Now all of these people are asking for total repeal. We will oppose this bill, even though there is a provision where there is a legal right for bail, because you are using this amendment to mislead everyone, saying this is some good first step Let us start here. We will move on and so on. You're pulling wool over the eyes of the world, or you're trying to. You won't succeed in that. You're trying to. And therefore, to expose you, to expose this puerile attempt by the government to try and show that there is some reform. As I told you, Honorable Minister, in Jaffna, if this is reform, you have to change the word reform in the dictionary. And you did not counter me on that at that point. So therefore, in order to expose this attempt by the government to show something which makes no change on the ground, we will be opposing the passage of this bill today. Thank you.